I'm going to show you how to enter a new inquiry into the SNA Masonry System. First of all, you go up to the Inquiries tab at the top of the screen and click on Enter, Edit an Inquiry. The next thing you do is click on Create New Inquiry and you're asked OK to clear, so yes. Now it automatically comes up with today's date, which you can amend if you want to. It then logs on to the default branch. You can choose a different branch if you're multi-branch. If not, you can just choose your default branch. In this case, ours is SNA. You can choose from monumental, wholesale, countertop, signs, fireplaces, sundry, etc. In this case, monumental. Our system's set to cemetery required as a default, but if you choose to not have the cemetery, then you'll lose all the cemetery information. Enter the deceased name. You can enter the date of death if you know it, and click on Create a New Customer. You can search for a customer if you want to by clicking on Search for a Customer, but in most cases it'll be Create a New Customer. In the Customer Details screen, this holds all of the details of the customer who's inquiring. So we have Mrs. Jane Smith, and if you notice, the initials got entered automatically. We come to the salutation, which is how you'd address the customer in a letter. If you knew her as Jane, you could enter Jane. If not, it defaults to Mrs. Smith. If they were a company, you could enter the company details and the website if you know it. Now we're entering the contact details, the contact address details. There's plenty of room to enter a long address. And a postcode. You'll notice that the middle part of the screen has the bill to details in case the person you're billing is going to be different. It's automatically been filled in as a copy of the customer details, but you can override them if you wish. There's also an account number. Now if you choose to use our Sage interface, it'll be the account number you've chosen in Sage. You then choose the source. The source can be how they heard of you, and the location area of the customer. We've lots of phone numbers, home, work, mobile, and fax if it's still used. We're entering a home phone number and a mobile. I'll also enter an email address for any correspondence. If you notice, there are little buttons beside the phone numbers. Whichever you tick becomes the default number, so if the customer says to call them on their mobile, you would tick that as the default. You can now enter any notes about the customer, whether they're a nice person, whether they want you to do something specific, but obviously the customer never gets to see this. You can then choose the type of customer, which we'll come to later as to why that's in there. And now you click on Save the Customer, so they'll be saved into the system for future use. If you notice, there's a couple of Google Maps icons on the screen. If you click on either of those, you can look at the Google map for the address that you've entered, which could be handy if you're popping out to see a customer. On save, you'll notice it's now issued an inquiry number. Now you can change the source code if required and enter the category of the type of business that they're interested in. This is for analysis purposes later on. There's a search text field which defaults to the deceased name, but you could enter another reference, something that you can search for in future if you're trying to find the customer. Then you can enter the relationship of the customer to the deceased. You can look up the cemetery either by a cemetery name or by the fixing area that the cemetery is located in. We've chosen Griffin. Then you may enter the plot and the grave number. The little fees button lists the fees down the right hand side of the screen. You can choose one of these fees and then you can incorporate the fee cost into the inquiry letter if required. You can enter a reference. This could be the header on the letter, and you can enter any notes relating to the inquiry. On the right hand side we have a follow-up date, so if you intend to follow up the call, see how the customer is getting on, whether they like the brochure, you can diary to do so. Now we're going to save the inquiry. When you want to choose to print a letter, you simply select the letter required, decide who you're going to send to, whether it's to the customer or the person paying the bill or the leaseholder. You can either print directly to your printer, open in Word, view on the screen, create a PDF or email directly to the client. We're going to view on the screen. Now this letterhead has been designed by us. It's you can either print on your own pre-printed stationery, or we can design your letterhead for you. We can incorporate logos and colour. I'm going to save the inquiry again. Now we'll clear the screen. Now this little report shows you all of the inquiries that need following up, so you can use it as a list to work through if you want to give people a call and see how they're getting on looking at your brochure. We can search for inquiries easily. There are different ways to search. You can enter a date that you wish to search from, and you can search by all these different ways, be it deceased or cemetery. In this case we're searching by deceased and the name Smith, and as you can see we had 2 in there, and then we chose the one we wanted. Having found our customer or inquiry, it goes into read-only mode. The reason for this is so that you don't accidentally alter an inquiry. You have to choose to do so. So we're going to click on Edit to make any changes. Just save the inquiry once more. Nice and quick and easy to save. We have a Contact Notes tab, which is where you can enter any contacts you made with your inquiry. You can choose to store phone conversations or documents. This is particularly handy if you've got lots of members of staff. So we're going to say New to enter a new contact with the customer. It defaults to today and today's time, and you can say who's made the inquiry. Then you get a choice of contact types, being a phone conversation, face-to-face, email sent, and you choose whichever one required. We've decided to choose face-to-face conversation. Then you enter the name of the person you made contact with, and you can enter some notes of the conversation. As you can see, there's a document field. The reason for this is if the customer has sent you any documentation, be it photographs or letters, you can actually scan them and save them to your computer, and you can actually attach them here for future reference. If you've agreed with the customer that you're going to follow the inquiry up in a week or 2, you can set a follow-up date and time. Enter some brief notes of what the follow-up type is going to be. In this case, we're going to give Jane a call back. And we save the contact. It's now listed on the right-hand side for any of your staff to see. The Customer tab is available, and this shows you all the details that you entered previously, the customer's details, the bill to details. You can again edit these at any stage. Click on the Google Maps to see where the customer lives. Quite handy if you're going somewhere remote. You can also directly email the customer. Now, the cemetery tab holds a lot of information on each of the cemeteries. Our example doesn't have a lot on it, but you can have the location, the accounts address, the fixing notes, any general notes, obviously all of the fees that are applicable. Again, we have the Google Maps, which is ideal if you're going to go to a very remote cemetery and you'd like to see how far away it is and how easy it is to get to. We have all the pay type details, so how you're going to pay for the fees, whether it be cheque, backs, card, and who you make the cheque payments to. You can also hold the backs details and your card details if you wish to do so. You can also attach scanned forms of the cemetery's applications. It saves a lot of time having to dig out the forms that you may have in your office if they're scanned and ready available. Back to the general details page. Now, if you want to, you can now convert this inquiry to either a quotation or to an order. All of the information that you've already entered will automatically go across to the quotation and the order. So if you want to see how to do either of those, please look at our other videos. Thank you.